who has been torn away from their security blanket, their parents, the ones who stop the boogeyman from terrorizing the nights and curing their boo-boos when they scrape their knees. Now just imagine how they must feel when the CPS meant to protect them tears them away from their supposed abusers and places them with strangers who have zero comforting skills. They need to be calm. They are confused, lost, panicked, and needing their parents, but CPS took them away for the purpose of saving them. The kids don't even know why, and they are told that the parents they attach to no longer want them. What do you think that does? Do you think that this is how protecting children is supposed to look? Abolish CPS.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Saturday edition of CPS Victims Hunting for Justice. I'm your host, Vinny, and we are going to be talking about CPS rights in Maine, um, as to what Maine says your rights are. So, in Maine, parents have many rights when dealing with Child Protective Services, CPS, including being informed. You have the right to know why you are being investigated and what the allegations are. You should also be told about any legal action involving your child. Being represented. You have the right to have an attorney represent you in court, including during questioning by a CPS representative. If you cannot afford an attorney right away, you can refuse to let CPS in, or you can bring someone with you to interview, such as a friend, relative, or religious leader. Being involved. Being involved, you have the right to attend all court hearings regarding your case. Even if your children are taken away, you can also meet with a CPS worker to discuss the report, ask questions, and receive feedback. Refusing to cooperate. You can refuse to speak to CPS or let them in your home, but this does not mean the case will end. CPS must still proceed with their investigation. Receiving services. You have the right to be offered services to help with problem of child abuse and neglect, and to have a clear written plan for those services. If your parental rights are ended, you may still be able to receive services from DHHS to help you address the problems in your home. Now, people, you all take and you go by like what everyone has to say, um, and that's not even the case in this matter. Um, I'm trying to get the thing up here, um, the message board, so we can get comments because I see we got someone watching. Um, but you guys got to understand that you need to know your rights when it comes to each and every individual state or county. You need to know your constitutional rights and your rights as far as CPS, because if you say okay, you can come in, you just let them gain access to your house, which gives them the right to go through your entire house. So you got to kind of play the game with CPS and be that person that says, okay, you want to meet? We're not meeting inside my house. We're meeting outside my house. Um, if they have an officer with you and you ask them to leave and they don't, you have the right to ask that officer to have them removed and then charged with trespassing. That is a law across states. They cannot trespass on private property when you have asked them to leave several times. It's a violation of your rights. Um, Now, pertaining to what your actual rights are constitutional wise, um, I'm looking that up for you so you guys will get a little bit of an understanding of what they look at. First and foremost, with your um, lawyer, your lawyer should come right out and tell you that your Fifth Amendment right is protected. I have a new CPS lawyer, and he told me straight up from the start, I respect your constitutional right to the Fifth Amendment. That's when you know that your attorney is going to try to fight for you. If they don't tell you that they're going to protect your constitutional right, hi, Carrie, welcome in, um, then they shouldn't be your attorney. Now, as pertains to your constitutional rights, you were protected by the First Amendment. You were protected by the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and a couple others. For instance, protection wise, the First Amendment, known as the Bill of Rights. Okay. So with the Bill of Rights, you know that is protecting you. You can't use, as people say, oh, well, put out all your constitutional rights that are being violated by CPS. No, you don't want to do that. You want to put two of the top violations of your rights, and that is it. You don't want to have a dialogue when it comes to filing a motion or speaking to a judge. They don't want to hear that. They do not want to hear, well, they violated this constitutional right, and so on. They do not want to hear that. Herbert, you got feedback a little bit there. Um, they want to hear the rights that are point blank. Yes, you can. I'm gonna mute Herbert because he's echoing. But you can say that they have violated your due process of law. That is one thing that you want to have in your motion, and it should be one of the second or third things down. You blatantly want to tell them what is going on in this case, respectfully. You don't want to be like yelling, swearing, none of that. You got to be respectful when it comes to these judges. If you cannot show them respect, they're not going to show you respect. And that notion. And I've come to learn that, like, the first judge I had in my criminal case would not allow me bail. He denied my bail. But the second judge was okay with me having bail. So it's all about how you present yourself to the judge and how you talk to a judge. The judge is the key to everything because the judge is the say. CPS can say all they want that, oh, well, we got rights to take you out of this and this. They don't. In Maine State, they have to abide by their policies and procedures. If they fail to abide by their policies and procedures, they can get a slap on the wrist. And they can be Mirandized for it. I have found a couple of loopholes in their policies and procedures that they do not follow, and there's three major ones that they haven't followed. So I urge you guys to reconsider how you think when you're speaking to your attorney, for one, the guardian ad litem, because a lot of people do get guardian ad litems in their cases, and most of them are appointed automatically. You just don't know it until you find out. So you want to be respectful to the judge, you want to be respectful to your attorney, you want to be respectful to the guardian ad litem, and you want to be respectful to your caseworker on your CPS case. Yeah, I know you guys don't want to hear that, but a little respect goes a long ways. So if you're showing them that you can respect them, they might actually work with you and not against you. Everyone's always talking that, we should abolish CPS. No, we should change how they handle their policies and their procedures and how they violate due process of law, which they do. We need to reform CPS and go to our legislative and our Congress and explain what is exactly going on. What are they getting away with doing? What policies and procedures are they breaking? You need to be specific. You can't just ramble on and expect they're going to listen to you. They're not. Um, you know, I see a lot of cases online that state, oh, well, they violated this constitutional right. Even I was the same way. Um, but you have to look at the bigger picture, because if you don't, you're not hurting you in your case, you're hurting your kids, yourself, and the case by not going over what policies and procedures CPS has in each state. Every state and country is different. You have to go by their policies and procedures, read them, understand in every document what they're violating in each. And then you need to point out the major violations. Only one or two, sometimes three, depends on what your circumstances are. Um, but I have also learned that you do not have to submit to any drug tests at all whatsoever. You do not have to submit to any counseling that they say you have to do. If it's not court ordered, you don't have to do it. It has to be court ordered. You must see it on a court order from a judge stating you need counseling, or you need to have a drug test done, or you need to have a urine test done. You need to make sure that it is on a court document. Do not go by what CPS says, because half the time they're not going to tell you the truth anyways. They're just going to get you to try to get in the door with them and make you think that, oh, they're really working with you. When they do the drug tests and the counseling and everything else, they're pulling you in. They're making you do what they want. You do not have to do what they want. You can go direct and say, well, Your Honor, I am in counseling and I'm seeing a counselor. You can even have your counselor come to your hearing. Okay. Um, a lot of people don't realize that if you're on good graces with your counselor, she can come in and speak on your behalf. So can't the other people involved in your life. So, say you have a drug and alcohol assessment, you can then pull that person in to your witness list. And by doing so, you're helping yourself. You're not helping them with their investigation, you are helping yourself. And I feel highly that by helping yourself and by looking over their policies and procedures, knowing your constitutional rights, and trying to get your side heard without them portraying you as something different, because they do it. I've seen it several times, even in quite a few of my own cases. They portray you as the bad person. They're looking to see what they can find on you to build their case. So if you don't allow them in your door and you don't allow them on your property, they have to do their investigation and actually do their job. Their job is to investigate. By you helping them, it never works in your favor, not once. I can attest to that, because of all the stuff that I'm going through right now. You guys really need to put your work in when it comes to CPS. You need to know their policies and procedures. You need to know your rights and where you stand. And you need to make sure that you have clarified every document, and make sure That when they say, "Oh, we have an oath of truth," how can you have an oath of truth if you're not living in the household? You cannot. It's just blatant. The affidavit of truth is a farce because there is no affidavit of truth for them. They are a identity. They are a corporation. They're federally funded. Yes, they get they make money every year, and they make a lot in that year, the whole year. You gotta put it in perspective because they're paid hourly wages, which means that they are just like every one of us. They're getting paid by the hour. Okay, so yes, at the end of the year, I could see them making 45, 50,000. It's the ones that are higher up that are making far more than they should be. Okay, when you're talking like 141,000 to 158,000, that's a lot of money. There's no way they should be making more as a supervisor than a caseworker. I'm sorry, but unless they got the full experience and they have the certificates and they got the proof that they've done every single class, which most of them don't, they do not, then they should not be getting the same pay. We need to go back and reiterate that, okay, the pay scale should be fair across the board. There is no incentives, really isn't. Um, these people are not making tons and tons of money. Before every hearing, the social worker, who is custodian of all records, submits to court a status update of all completed, uncompleted, and what services FAMs are interacting in now. Right, Gary. They do and they don't. Um, uh, I seen in some of the cases where they twisted my records around. Okay. So my one record states that I have anxiety due to CPS. They turned it around and said I have anxiety due to other reasons. So they left stuff out and did not portray me as what it says on my record. So they're twisting my records and making me look like I'm a bad parent. And that's a violation of my rights because by doing so, they're falsifying court documents and reports. See, there is a difference. When you falsify information to a court and the person can prove that they're falsifying information without a shadow of a doubt, which I can, okay? There is a fine line, and the type of person that I screenshot and I save the date, the time of the email, and I screenshot the lower half of what was said. So I have over, I'd say, 3,000 screenshots of everything that ever happened in this case from day one. Right, right. Exactly what to do for the courts and give a passive way for parents to get their support docs. The lawyers won't submit. Right. And that's been a hard thing up here. Um, Let me explain. I haven't really been able to be on the show lately um, due to circumstances and working more. Um, and picking up more hours here and there, and it's that time of year for me as well. So um but I just got a new CPS attorney. Herbert, you can unmute yourself at any point. I had to mute you because you were echoing. um but this new CPS worker told me, he goes, I respect your Fifth Amendment rights and they will not be violated with me. And he went on to ask me questions, and he goes, it's funny because, I'm a criminal defense attorney and CPS attorney, and they sent me your criminal record file, and that's it. Why would you send only my criminal record and not the CPS case? So he said, well, I guess we're going to have to file a motion to get everything seen. And then I questioned him. I said, I know about Katahdin. He goes, what do you mean you know about Katahdin? I said, I know about the AI software that they're using and I want my report. And he said, well, we can get that for you. So right there, that told me, he's on my side. And when I told him that they didn't have this 6-month review and they didn't have the 120-day jeopardy hearing, he said that's immediate grounds for dismissal. Immediate. I agree, Carrie. Carrie says, everyone, I feel First Amendment auditories have ruined the arguments for all citizens before court at whatever court level. And she's right. It has ruined the arguments at courts. These lower courts do not want to hear half of these things. They want to know facts based on facts. Not fiction, not false, facts. They look at facts. If the facts aren't there, they immediately will terminate the case. But if there's a shadow, a little bit of a shadow, it's like a 30 to 40%. I think we got Herbert back here. We do. Hold on, Herbert, get you out here. It's like a 30 to 40% marginal way that they have to prove you. So if you're providing factual information and they're looking it over and going, okay, and they compare it to what they have and they see that this is falsified or that is falsified, and you got the facts, it tends to work in your favor because CPS doesn't go based on just facts. They go based on their information and what their computer is telling them. That's where they get you. And that's where all parents need to realize that you're not just fighting CPS, you're fighting government, you're fighting with your attorneys. You're basically fighting the state as well because their AAG, Assistant Attorney General, or Attorney General, AG, is the one calling the shots. He tells them what he's going to do in court. He's been signing documents that I found, and I sent them to my attorney and I said, why isn't AAG signing court document paperwork when it should be a judge? And I pointed it out, and he said, you're right about that. He goes, he should not be signing as the AAG. So they're using their AAG to do to their dirty work. Carrie said, so providing your own statements of fact and supporting evidence that your court-appointed lawyer wouldn't have submitted for you. Right, Carrie. You want your own statement of truth, and you want to admit your own evidence. That way they see it, but you want it when you file the motion for it, you want it on the record, and you must state it in your motion. You want it to state, I want this on the record, because you will need that. And that's, Roz was right. You want everything on the record. From the moment you go into that courtroom, you want to tell them you want it all on the record. Everything that's said, everything that's documented, anything on the record. And she says, and I work, and the workers and their lawyers and supervisors won't be expected this tactic. So while this balances the scales of justice. It also lets them know you are not uneducated to this proceedings, and it keeps all accountables, including you and the parents. Yep, it does. Yep. If you file in 10 days before the hearing, you will automatically be on record on your case. See, Carrie knows her stuff. Carrie, I'm surprised that you really don't come on the show because, I see a lot of information coming from you, and you've definitely done your homework. So you understand a lot of what's going on. You're seeing it. I see it from my side because I have not only the CPS case, I have the criminal side. So now that I have two attorneys that are both criminal defense attorneys, they're both going to be working together. I set them up so they both could talk to each other. Knowledge you gain, right, right. Which is good. It's good to have knowledge, and a lot of these people are not willing to share their knowledge. A lot of them do speak out on TikTok. I give you that, okay? But then again, there is the factor of knowing your rights, knowing the policies and procedures per county, per state, and then knowing the law, which the law side would be Herbert. Okay, he knows law. Herbert, what is your aspects on say if you went out to a house with DPS, what would be your job to be there?
My job would be to, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. My job would be to act as a peacemaker between CPS personnel and the parents.
Okay. And what does that entail?
That entails that to avoid any confrontation between both parties.
Okay, so you're basically there to make sure no fighting or anything happens.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Now what do you think about when it comes to what Carrie has said?
I didn't see what Carrie said. Let me see if I can see what Carrie says.
He's writing in the
Uh,
box.
yeah, I'm looking down here now. If you file it 10 days before the hearing, it is automatically on the record. She goes on to say something else here. And the workers and their lawyers and supervisors won't be expecting this tactic. So while this balances scale of justice and process and da 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 da. And then she says, so providing your own statement of facts or supporting evidence that your court appointed lawyer wouldn't have submitted for you. She says, I feel First Amendment audits have ruined this argument for all the citizens. Okay. Have you, I'm trying to see where I could kick in. Exactly why do this? The courts, I, I can't address this because I don't see where I come into play.
I think she's just asking what your opinion is.
Oh, my opinion about what she's saying is fine because I concur with her opinions because I have no way of proving or disproving what she's saying. So I go along with her opinions.
Okay, now let me ask.
As law enforcement is concerned, there's nothing there that puts me into that picture.
Okay, now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
As law enforcement, if a citizen asked you to have someone removed from their property and served with a no trespass, do you have to do so?
Citizen has to first prove that that's their property.
Right. I get that.
I could walk that into the squatters, people that have their homes, seasonal homes, vacation homes, and they happen to come there and there's somebody living in there, and they call the police and say there's somebody living in my house. The police will show up and say to the owner of the house, well, can you prove this is your house? Here's proof that this is my house. then they could
Right.
tell that person they have to be removed. However, if they were renting that house out to the person, that's going to end up into a court situation because
Yeah.
the renter is going to say, "Oh no, I have the right to rent this house for X amount of time." The owner's going to say, "We own the house, and I want you out." Then I would say, "Well, that's between you and the courts. That's between you that's between the person who you rented the house to, and the contract you have, and the courts."
Yeah. 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 I
But
agree with that.
if an unknown person is in the house, they don't even know who it is, and they don't have a contract agreement for renting, then I'm going to tell that person, get out. This is their house. Actually, they will be arrested for trespass.
Okay. Um, and what have you seen as a law enforcement officer?
In cases like that, people have gotten arrested for being in people's houses. That's called a burglary.
Okay, but I mean, just in general, like, um, have you had to go on CPS calls?
I've been around CPS calls as a protector of CPS personnel and parents to make sure everything went smoothly.
So you definitely were the middleman,
That's
as you
all.
will. Yeah,
Just a security guard.
yeah. So you were hired to protect both sides,
That's all.
basically.
To
Yep.
protect the, just to uphold the peace.
Okay. Um. So you guys need to really understand that cops are not really out to hurt you. Yes, some of them can be overzealous. Um, and it's like a conversation I had with Herbert a little while ago. Cops are not looking to entrap you. They're looking to do their job, and a lot of people do not respect them. If you show respect to an officer, you're going to get more with them. If you don't show an officer respect and you're rude, they're going to use it against you one way or another. It may not be the way you think they'll use it against you, but it holds bar because they say, okay, well, this person told me to blank myself, and they'll share that with the other officers. See, where we're getting at here is when you disrespect an officer, they hold on to that. I know Herbert would. I mean, he's a man that believes that you should be respectful to people, and I understand that.
But
Um,
at the same token,
right,
there are officers within departments that may not be respecting the people.
right.
So I'm not going to deny that.
So, I
But
see a lot of that.
it all starts with the initial respect. When a police officer approaches you about something, if you put up a stink immediately, you've already started the battle.
Right, right. I agree with that. So it works the same way when you're dealing with CPS. If you're not respectful and say, "Sorry, ma'am, you cannot come in my house. You're not welcome here. Please leave." You do it in a respectful voice. You ask them twice. By the third time, you should be either on the phone with a cop or the cop there and ask the cop politely, please have them escorted off my premises.
Well, for one, I would say in most cases, if the police are there, the police has already gone over the CPS paperwork to see that the CPS have the right to be there because the police doesn't want to be put on the spot.
Right, but
So if they have a court order, if see, okay, there's two things going on. One is CPS just wants to go and talk to parents, but they feel uncomfortable. They may not want to enter the home. They just want to talk. So fine, talk. But if CPS has the right to, say, obtain a child from the home, don't they have to have a court order?
they have to have what's called a here in Maine it's called a PPO. It's a preliminary protection order for kids.
Good. So if they have that signed by the judge, then yes, we're
Yes,
going
then
into
you
we are going into the house.
right, right. You
The
have to
parent,
let them
the,
in by
the
law. Yep,
parent, the parent can say no all they want, but we're walking in.
yep. As long as
Okay.
they have that signed by a judge or a
Yes.
warrant,
Yes.
that's a different story.
Yes. But if they don't have anything signed by a judge or a warrant, no, we're
You
not
do
going
not.
into the
Nope,
house.
nope.
No.
You do not have to let them in. Nope.
No, you don't have to let them in. No.
And you can refuse. You can refuse them to even come on your property.
That's correct too.
According to the law here, it states that you don't have to let them in. If they don't have a court order and they don't have a warrant, they have no reason to come in your house
Yeah, if they
whatsoever.
don't have it, they have no reason to come in. But if they have the warrant and you refuse, they're coming in.
Yep, yep. So I don't think that we should be saying abolish CPS. I'm saying we need reform of CPS. We need to tell these people what policies and procedures they are breaking. What constitution rights are they violating? Um, the fact that our children are not being reunified is not good. We need to stand our ground and have our reunifications. It states in statutes that they are supposed to reunify. Even in their policies and procedures, it states it. They're supposed to reunify with the family. They are not supposed to remove the kids unless they have warrant to remove them, which means they're supposed to come out to your house and do an inspection. And 10 times out of 10, in most of these cases, they have not. Speaking from experience, they didn't come here whatsoever to see that I was not here. I was somewhere else. I was 3 hours away, but they took the kids before they even came out to inspect the home. And they did it without a court order in hand. They didn't have the court order until 4 days later. So they blatantly violated their own policies and procedures and did not care.
So with that
And
in mind, what can you do about that?
you have to bring that up to your attorney, and you have to bring it up to the judge and explain what exactly happened. And most of the time they'll look at that and go, okay, they are in fact violating their own policies and procedures, and they'll look at it. It's not rocket science to put it all together. And if a lot of these families that are speaking out are being heard one form or another, um, from my standpoint on everything, I'm finally getting a little headway. I feel relief a little bit because I now have someone that is willing to hear my case and willing to say, okay, they never held a 6-month review. They never held a 120-day jeopardy hearing. That's a motion for dismissal on them grounds alone. He has no evidence, no documents, no court orders of anything pertaining to the CPS case, not even the CAC video. He hasn't seen it. And I explained to him, I said, if you listen when you do get it, and you listen to the first very part of that whole recording, they're in the next room talking to the supposed victim. Okay, they're in the next room talking to her before they even walk into that recording room. That's tampering and coercion by the CAC video. And then they go on to say, oh, well, her mother beat her with a 2x4 in a police report. Okay, well, if her mother beat her with a 2x4, wouldn't you think that this child would either A, have a broken jaw, B, have teeth missing, or C, went to the hospital to be seen for it? But it's in the report. They're pulling lots of different things here in Maine. They're violating their policies and procedures rapidly. Um, but these caseworkers and these supervisors, some of them are overzealous. I've dealt with two supervisors. I didn't care a lick of spit about. They're useless. They did not want to work with you. They lied to you repeatedly, and I have the proof. Um, so it's not just them not doing their job; it's them violating their policy and their procedures. My attorney got right on when I told him. I said, since day one, I have not seen my kids in 9 months. And he goes, what? Why haven't you seen your kids? I said, I was supposed to have visitations, but they denied me that many times. And I showed it to him. I said, here's the proof. And he looked at that and he goes, wow. He goes, you actually have a screenshot of them stating your visitations. Yes, I do. And they blatantly, without a court order, violated my rights. As a parent, we do have rights. My rights have not been taken. I still have them. I have a right to my daughter's medical history, which they stopped without a court order. CPS up here is a lot different from other states. They play a different game, and I'm starting to catch on to the way they're playing their game. They're trying to use something that happened in my childhood as a repeated offense against me. And to me, that's a blatant violation of my rights. Blatant. There's no ifs, no ands, no buts. It happened when I was a child. And it had no grounds whatsoever. Really didn't. I have other witnesses to what happened to me when I was a child, and they say the same thing. These people do not care. And I hope you guys are all hearing me when I say we don't need to abolish CPS. We need to reform them. We do not want to abolish them on grounds of when a child really needs that step in when it comes to physical abuse or molestation or trauma done to this child, and the parents are doing it. That's when we need CPS to actually step in and say, okay, well, we can offer you these services to help the family, meaning family counseling, um, individual counseling, classes on how to parent. These are things that parents should be doing anyways. You should be signing up. If you can't parent the right way, you should be signing up for parenting classes, whether it is single parent classes or co-parenting. It's good to have both because they do help to have. If you have co-parenting and parenting, um, they work hand in hand because you get to see both sides. It's not one-sided, people. It really isn't. There's a lot of things you guys really need to understand, and you need to know what to look for when it comes to parenting your child and how to stay off CPS's radar. Like Herbert says all the time, You have to find that way to avoid CPS's radar. That means we have to go back to how we parent. Do we spank our kids? Nowadays, it's frowned upon. Do we yell at our kids? No, because that's verbal abuse. We have to learn to speak to our children in a key tone of voice that they understand. And if they don't understand what you're talking to them about, teach them. Get back to when we were growing up and didn't really have the parenting. You look at the situations back many years ago where parents were just like run the streets or do this, do that. They didn't really care. That's what this society is becoming again. It really is. And it's sad because, I see the way others talk to their children, and I'm just like, how can you talk to your kids like that? Me, I tend to raise my voice above level, but it's not to be a jerk, it's to get my point across. I, I'm talking normal now. I go a key higher to have my voice heard because my kids like to tune me out because mommy taught them it's okay to walk on dad. No, it's not. And parents need to understand that if you're in a relationship, you need to be working with your husband and asking your husband what he feels. You can't be working against each other. You cannot. If you're a single parent, yes, I understand it's hard to be a single parent. It really is. I did it for quite a few years. I raised my oldest son for 3 years on my own. I had custody of him and I helped raise him. Um, so I get it. It's really hard to parent alone, but you can do it. You need to educate yourself. I'm not saying, go out and hook up with a man just to have like a daddy figure. No, no, I'm not saying that. And I never would say that. Um, I just want you guys to be encouraged that when it comes to parenting and kids, you got to kind of have kid gloves on. You got to know what your grounds of what I'm going to do or what I'm going to say, you have to base it on the children. You cannot talk with the kids in the room or where they can hear you with your spouse or significant other. You do not want your kids to hear adult conversation. If you have to have an adult conversation and you don't have anyone that can watch your kids, wait until the kids are sound asleep. Then go sit outside and have an adult conversation alone. You're avoiding CPS by doing so. Um, so I'm hoping that you guys will hear what I have to say. I really do. I don't believe in abolishing CPS. I believe in reforming CPS, but not abolishing. Um, I'm gonna go probably for another half hour. So 7:30, I'm gonna cut it off. But I really stress to you guys that you need to know your rights as far as CPS. You need to know your rights as far as the courts. You need to know what their codes are and what statutes they fall in line with. You need to do your homework. If you don't do your homework and you're not studying each state statute and you're not studying your constitutional rights and the policies and procedures of CPS, you're failing yourself because you're not following through with your parenting side. Your parenting side should tell you, okay, well, I need to go look at CPS's policies and procedures and see what they are actually violating in their policy. And then you need to go look up your constitutional rights and read your constitutional rights there. You know, you got to have structure in what you are doing, because if you don't, it falls back on you. You are the essential parent. They're looking for that. They're looking to see if you're willing to go that extra mile. And as a parent, I'm going more than that extra mile. I am proving these people that they have shamed me from day one on something that was not even worth shaming me for. They want to sit there and believe hearsay is okay. Hearsay is not admissible in court. I'm sorry. It is never admissible in court. Pursuant to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, it states it. Unless they have a fact based, where they have full on evidence, full on information that they have seen you in the act, hearsay evidence does not apply. I'm sorry. And the court should see it that way too. And that's where these courts are not listening, because they are listening to hearsay evidence. And it's not supposed to be that way. It is not. So, you know, Herbert, what are your thoughts on the hearsay evidence?
I don't think there should be used hearsay evidence. I think there should be factual evidence.
I
But
agree. Yep.
on a subject about the spanking that you mentioned before, you can spank a child, but the spanking shouldn't be done in a harsh way or in anger. It should be done
I
as a
agree.
discipline. And that's
I
acceptable
agree.
by CPS. They're not going to frown upon you with that. They do frown upon um, you having children around people in your home that should not be there, that could
Yep.
be of danger to their child. They frowned upon also if you smoke marijuana, the fact that the child reeks of the smell of marijuana going to school. You just put yourself on radar with the school
Yep.
because
See,
the smoke is in the house going on the clothing of the child. The child puts the clothing on, goes to school, and at that you can pick that smell up real fast.
yep. Yep, you can. And let's explain why it is frowned upon with CPS. Okay. Parents understand marijuana, yes, it may be legal in your state, it may be medicinal and recreational, but it is not federally legal by the government, which states that a government agency can pull a drug test because it is not federally legal. And that's what they abide by. They abide by the federal government. Even though your government may say, and you're like, and you're say
State,
like
you're talking
me,
about the state
yep,
government is
the
saying it's
state
okay.
government
The state the
may
state
say,
government allows you to have dispensaries, but the
right,
federal government doesn't recognize that.
right, it does not. And that's where a lot of families are running into issues, because it is not federally legal. So they can, by rights, have you drug tested by rights. And if it's in your system, yes, they're going to try to use it against you, even though you got a medical card. They do not care. So, you know, parents need to think outside the box. Okay. If it's not a court ordered drug test, don't do it. Simple. Has to be court ordered. If it's not court ordered, you don't have to do it. It has to be court ordered. Same with drinking. Okay. Drinking legal age is 21. So if you're having minors in your house that are drinking without you knowing, and they say, oh, yeah, well, my parents allowed me to drink and you didn't know about it, and you're finding out in a report, you need to go back and you need to rebut that out of the report and say, listen, I didn't allow this to happen in here whatsoever. It was not allowed in my house. So where they got the alcohol was not from me. And then you need to get clarification of what the judge has to say to it. They cannot admit hearsay. They cannot. I'm sorry, but unless you have fact-based information, hearsay is admissible. That's per constitution. That's per statute. Hearsay is admissible in court. So people, know your state statutes, know your constitution, know your policies and procedures, know your legislative government, because you want to talk to them when you're dealing with CPS and dealing with what policies they're violating. They need to hear it. They need to know what policies they are breaking. What constitutional rights are they violating? And don't give them a whole list of constitutional rights. Stick to your main constitutional rights. Stick to the main facts on the policies and procedures, and put them in a letter to them and show them how they are violating it. They need proof. Without the proof, you have no evidence, which means it is based on hearsay. And they're not going to listen to you. You got to show proof in these cases. I urge you all to listen to the facts and know before you charge into things. I can't hear you, Herbert. Your mic's off or something. Yeah, I don't know what happened. You're not even talking.
I'm here. I'm back.
Nope. Oh,
Yeah,
there you go.
I'm back. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
No, no.
Um.
I'm sorry. I was speaking. I was on the phone with someone, and I had to cut you off.
Oh, that's okay. Um.
Okay.
So we're gonna end at like 30 of. I figure I'd do an hour show tonight because I got a couple things I need to do and I need to eat dinner. I started at
Okay.
6:30, so I figured I'd go to 7:30.
Okay. I just wanted to read to you something that I found in my material
Hey, Ashley.
about how to avoid CPS. That is, physical discipline is legal in all states of the United States. Spanking with a hand is a common and most acceptable form of physical discipline. Once any injury is left on a child, it has gone beyond discipline and is now abuse.
Yeah.
Injuries, no
Yeah,
matter
like a
how
bruise.
small,
Yep.
injuries, no matter how small, can raise to that level. A bruise, a welt, cut, broken bone could all lead to finding of child abuse.
Yep.
Assaulting a child at any time is illegal. Even if no injuries are left, it is still
Agree.
illegal. This
Agree.
includes throwing things at a child in anger, as well as physically hitting or harming. It is never appropriate to strike a child in anger, no matter what the child's actions are.
That's correct. I agree. You should never hit a child whatsoever.
Right. Babies cry
Yep.
and have no ability to tell you what they need. It can be frustrating at times for parents. Frustrated parents can make poor decisions and shake their baby to try to get them to listen or just to stop crying. This can cause severe brain injuries in an infant. Their necks are not strong and are shaken, and any shaking can cause their brain to move and become injured. When this happens, the child is likely to be diagnosed with shaken baby syndrome.
Yep.
Shaken baby syndrome can cause long term brain damage in a child.
Yep. It sure can.
So, this is something that parents have to understand that they didn't knowingly or intentionally try to hurt the child. But because the child woke them up in the middle of their sleep crying and they're trying to get the child to stop crying by shaking them and all that, they could be doing damage to that child.
That's a good thing, Ashley. Ashley said, I'm sorry, but I've never spanked any of my kids, never had an issue with their attitudes. See, I never spanked any of mine either, Ashley. I agree with that. Um, but me growing up as a kid, I was spanked. I was spanked with a paddle. I was spanked with a wooden spoon. I was spanked with a belt. Um, so I was raised on that. So I tried not to raise my kids that same way. I tried to speak to my kids with a strong voice, but that was not good enough for them. Um, they would push that fine line, and they would use their mother as the pawn because they knew mommy would give in. Mommy was key to a lot of the behavior because mommy never came to dad or stepdad to ask, well, did you say this was okay? Or did you allow them to do that? No, no. They ran to mommy. Mommy let them. Even when I grounded them, mommy let them. She let them off the hook. And that should not be happening. If you're going to parent with another half, you need to be on the same page. You two need to talk. You need to discuss the discipline, whether it's taking a computer or taking a phone for a certain amount of days, or taking away their game system, or having them do more chores, not making, but having them pick up more slack. And yes, they should have chores, but they should have a little bit of an incentive for that chore. And it doesn't have to be money. It can be anything. It could be, okay, well, you did your dishes for a week. Is there something that you want to do? You use things that they want to do as their incentives. Okay, you want to go to a movie with a friend? Okay, well, you need to do this all week and prove yourself that you've done it. And a lot of parents don't do that. I myself, I believe in incentives for kids. I believe that giving them the opportunity to show you they want to help out is great, but you want to see it. You want them to realize you're not only asking them to do, like, say, the dishes. You're teaching them how to do the dishes. So you show them how to wash the dishes properly, how to dry them properly, how to put them away properly. And you do it with them once or twice so they catch on. And if they have questions, you answer. That's the way it should be. Ashley said, yeah, it was torture as a kid. Had to stand in a corner for hours. Yep, me too, Ashley. And then she said, when we sat down, my dad made us kneel on raw rice. Ooh, yeah, I've had that happen too. So I also had, when I was a kid, if I ran up the stairs, I had to walk up and down the stairs over 100 times. And if I swore, it was worse. I had the right. I will not say this and put the swear word over 1,000 times. So, disciplining back then to now, it really hasn't changed much, other than parents are going against each parent. You shouldn't be going against your spouse or going against um, your significant other, or going against your parents. Okay, yes, grandparents have rights just as well as we do to our kids. Even though they don't want to admit it in a lot of courts, grandparents do have rights, and that is true. Um, if the grandparents are stepping in because they see something that you're not doing right, or that the kid is doing and getting away with because you overlooked it, they're stepping in as a parental figure. They're a grandparent. They're your mother or your father or his mother and his father. You know, I'm just gonna stress that with you guys a little bit. But we're about out of time, and I gotta end the show here shortly. So with that said, Herbert, what is your last sayings for the evening?
Yeah, my last thing is that even if parents does literally everything right, CPS can still end up investigating. Anyone can call CPS to report suspected abuse and neglect. They don't have to prove or know for sure that something has or will happen. They are only required to have sincere belief or concern and not be intentionally lying. The majority of investigations done by CPS do not go anywhere. They are closed within a few weeks with no action taken by CPS other than possibly providing resource to help with the general needs.
Yep. I just gotta read this real quick. Ashley said, "Oh my God, I had to do the same if I missed spelling a word on my spelling test and write it a different sentence 100 times." Ashley, any final words for the audience that are actually viewing and reading the live? Any last words from you for the night, other than you're going to surf? Carrie, if you're here, any last words from you? Or anyone in the audience have any last words? Please leave them in the comments so that way some of the people can read them. My last words for the night is, don't be a victim of yourself, and don't be a victim of CPS on the grounds of knowing your own rights, knowing their policies and procedures. Go by law. This is CPS Victims Hunting for Justice.
Oh,
Me and Herbert. Oh,
one thing you
go
want to
ahead,
say
Herbert.
before you go out is that if you don't like the law, vote and change the law.
I agree.
If you don't want
If you
Herbert,
don't like it,
if you don't want Herbert to give you a ticket at a stop sign, change the law that Herbert can't give you a stop sign ticket or a speeding ticket. Then I will never stop you, because if it's not in law, I can't uphold something that's not there.
right.
So change the law. You can't change Herbert, but you could change the law.
And just for the watchers out there, Ashley said her last words for the night is, fight for your kids and don't ever stop. I agree with
Very
that,
good.
Ashley.
Yes.
100%. All right, guys, we are CPS Victims Hunting for Justice. You guys all have the rest of a great weekend, and we will see you back here Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great night. Me
And
and
when is your
Herbert
show
out.
again? Your show is on next
Yep.
Saturday.
The show is hosted every. By the way, it's the show by me is hosted every Saturday from 6:30 until 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So I know there's a lot of West Coast and whatnot out there. So if you're tuning in after we've ended the show, I'm sorry. Um, I hope that you guys will continue watching the show and showing support and coming on the show and sharing your stories. Until next time, me and Herbert are out of here.